laws as non-discrimination. That was put in place, I believe, in 1909. And you can make the argument that without common carriage, we would not have the telecommunications system built out in this country, which led to the internet. So, it's an important point to make at some point in the discussion that bringing back net neutrality will not entirely bring back common carriage. And another, I mean, you mentioned that the entry to, the barrier to entry is not that high for wireless providers, perhaps. Wireline providers is actually a lot more high now without common carriage laws, because before, telecom companies had to share their lines with smaller ISPs. After Brand X, they no longer have to do that. So I think that's a place where you can see a causal relationship between benefits to consumers and whether common carriage laws are in the books.
I'd like to kind of jump in on why it's important to the citizenship side, is that without common carriage, without the laws that require non-discrimination, and something which has been taken, which the COPE Act relieves the telephone companies, is an obligation to build out to all communities, as was just mentioned. So what could happen is what's called cherry picking, rolling out services only to the most profitable areas of a town or a city, usually construed to be where there's the highest per capita incomes. So in Champaign-Urbana, under the current terms of the franchise, any household in the cities is able to obtain cable TV service. Under the COPE Act, if AT&T goes to offer additional services, it's not obligated to offer those everywhere. So it could cherry pick a few neighborhoods in Champaign or Urbana and simply offer the services there and forget about the less affluent areas. So I think that's an important part that gets lost in this COPE Act, which is unfortunately not covered by net neutrality. If there are net neutrality provisions, they won't reverse that particular giveaway in the COPE Act, which is primarily a giveaway to the telephone companies, in that where you live could determine what kind of telecommunication services you have in front of you based upon what is perceived as your ability to pay before you even had a chance to buy
it. Victor, you generally described how common carrier has helped the development of the freedom of information on the internet and that sort of thing. You didn't actually specifically point to the cable industry in any cases.
Common carriage has never applied to the cable industry.
Exactly, and so we have a situation where you're trying to insinuate that this eliminating this common carrier in the cable industry is a big problem when it's never been the case. It's not eliminating it. One more thing, though, in general, in my experience at least, internet access has not effectively benefited from the common carrier provisions. I don't know of any third-party CLEC or third-party ISP that has made an effective competitive bid for a large internet market. If I don't know of some that exist, please inform me of them. But this is not an issue of net neutrality. This is an issue of lack of the kind of regulations like the Telecommunications Commission had for cable, which is that everybody in the household, every household in the city has to be able to get access. The Telecommunications Act of 1934 that said every household in the country has to be able to get telephone service, which still isn't the case. It's those issues that you're talking about now, not net neutrality.
You made a number of points. First of all, about cable not being under common carriage provision. That's true. In fact, that's been the problem. When cable got into the internet service game, they wanted to be considered an information service, not a telecommunication service. For that reason, they didn't want to have to follow the common carriage guidelines, and I would say that's detriment to. That's kind of where we're at right now with the neutrality debate. Your other point that I find somewhat curious is that the idea that common carriage didn't help internet build out. I think you could make the argument that dial-up internet services could not have happened without common carriage. I mean, they were forced to share their lines. That was a central plank of common carriage.
I'm
So
sorry, I might have misspoken. I meant broadband build-out.
broadband build out. I think that still applies, maybe not to the same extent, but yeah, I think that's still.
That's why I asked for any examples that you can think of as situations where that actually did provide a competitive alternative.
I think
I
that
don't know if McLeod was competitive, effectively competitive?
In the business.
Okay. A little bit competitive, but they were also in Thailand. Anyway, there are towns like St. Louis where Megapath and other third-party DSL providers existed, and they were still in business last time I checked, but they haven't captured a significant fraction of the market, and so I question whether they have illustrated that common carriage over telecom lines